Good morning. So today I will be reporting about the fundamentals of outbreak investigation. Outbreak investigations are critical endeavors undertaken by health agencies to safeguard public health, understand disease patterns, and implement effective control measures. By promptly identifying and responding to outbreaks, agencies play a vital role in preventing the spread of infectious diseases and minimizing their impact on communities. So, for us to understand more about outbreak investigation, let us first discuss what is epidemic, outbreak, and cluster as essential part of effective outbreak management. An epidemic refers to a significant increase in the number of disease cases in a specific area or among specific group of people over a particular period of time. Outbreak naman, on the other hand, is a localized increase in disease incidence. So, cluster refers to an aggregation of cases in a given area over a particular period, regardless of whether the number of cases is more than the expected. The decision to investigate a potential outbreak depends on various factors, including severity of the illness, the number of cases, the source and mode of transmission, available control measures, and resource availability. Different health departments may have varying approaches to responding to outbreak reports, but investigations are usually justified for reasons related to disease control, research opportunities, public concerns, program considerations, and training. Outbreak investigations serve multiple purposes, including guiding disease prevention and control strategies, advancing research, addressing public political and legal concerns, evaluating public health programs, and provide training opportunities for epidemiologists. So, let us say you are a public health officer, then you notice na mayroong sudden increase ng reported cases of gastrointestinal illness in a particular community. You, being the public health officer, requires you now to find ways to protect the health of the public. So, for you to do so, you must follow steps in investigation as your standard to quickly and efficiently conduct the investigation. So, ano-ano ba yung general phases of an outbreak investigation? So, steps of an outbreak investigations often addresses key details like uh, for steps 1 to 6, yun yung descriptive phase of an outbreak investigation. And yung step 7 to 10 uh, comprises of the analytic phase of the investigation. And for the response naman, uh, yun yung steps 11 to 13. So parang maiko-correlate natin yon sa outbreak investigation as kung dun sa descriptive, parang mai-correlate natin siya as to what is the problem, what is the cause, and what can we do for the outbreak. So, first things first, what is the problem? So, first you would do for your outbreak investigation. So, ang gagawin mo is prepare for field work. So, thinking back doon sa case ng gastrointestinal illness, this outbreak investigation would start with what is the problem. So, magpre-prepare ka na ng for the field work. So, magkakandak ka na ng research. So, during this phase, you being the public officer would search for yun nga, yung mga symptoms, yung cause ng illness, and yung ah, pag-generate mo na ngayon ng possibilities including yung foodborne ah, disease agents and how it is spread. Then during this phase, you will be able to form a team. You will also learn about the disease, make administrative personnel and logistical arrangement, and magkakaroon ka na rin ng coordination with partner agencies and local contacts. The next thing you would do is to determine that the outbreak is occurring by comparing surveillance data. So, initial reports from hospital, clinics, and community health centers indicate a significant increase in emergency department visits and hospital admission due to gastrointestinal illnesses. So now the team reviews surveillance data to confirm the outbreak, comparing the number of reported cases to historical baselines and assessing whether the increase is statistically significant. So you would um, review the report's data, confirm that the cases are the same disease, and you would also confirm that the number of cases exceeds the usual expected number. So, paano mo yun gagawin? First, you would assess the situation by determining yung scope, severity, and potential impact of the suspected outbreak. The second thing you should do is to prepare and resource mobilization. You would discuss the essential resources and supplies needed to conduct an outbreak investigation such as yung mga personnel, yung laboratory facilities, diagnostic tools na gagamitin, and yung communication system. So, outline strategies for mobilizing resources and stabilizing, establishing response teams or task force to manage the outbreak effectively. You also need to emphasize the importance of developing communication protocols, data collection tools, and response plan to streamline the investigation process. So, syempre mahirap naman na mag-conduct ka ng investigation kung hindi kumbaga naka-standardize lahat ng mga kailangan yung mga data about dun sa outbreak. So, next step you would do is to verify the diagnosis. In case of gastrointestinal illness, so siyempre merong mga laboratorians or yung mga medtech na makakapag-identify ng infectious agents and kayang i-confirm yung case with positive laboratory tests. So doon sa gastrointestinal illness kanina, it is really important to test as many suspected case as possible to make sure na yung mga symptoms ay really being caused by the same infectious agent. So, puwede ngayon i-test kung yung, kunwari yung kanilang stool sample to see if they will be positive to a certain infectious agent. For example, sabihin natin yung E. coli 0157H7. So, you would verify diagnosis of, kunwari food poisoning, confirming the occurrence of outbreak if are many similar test results like if lahat ay mag-positive dun sa E. coli 0157H7. So, after that, na ma-verify na yung inyong diagnosis, you would now construct a working case definition. A case definition serves as a standardized set of criteria for classifying individuals with health conditions of interest, facilitating uniformity in the case identification and classification. So, key consideration in constructing a case definition includes first, yung criteria for case classification. Dito, you will define clinical criteria based on the objective measures such as yung specific symptoms, laboratory findings, to distinguish case from non-cases. You should also incorporate temporal, spatial, and demographics restriction to refine the case definition, ensuring yung relevance to the outbreak context. Next, you would avoid exposure bias. Bakit? Excluding exposure or risk factors from the case definition, you would able to prevent bias and maintain objectivity in identifying cases. Ensuring consistency in applying the criteria to all individuals under investigation regardless of their exposure history and risk profile. So, incorporate natin all dun sa case. Ang magiging criteria mo na ngayon for the gastrointestinal illness would be anyone, let's say anyone who experienced vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal cramps. So, i-include na rin natin yung confirmed laboratory diagnosis of E. coli within the community. So, yung case definition can vary from outbreak to outbreak. And pwede pa siyang magbago as the investigation unfolds. So, more information helps to refine and improve criteria as investigators learn more about the outbreak. Next step is to find systematically and sys- record information. Okay, uh, the investigation team should now implement systematic measures to identify and record cases of the gastrointestinal illness within the affected communities. So now they can conduct door-to-door surveys, visit healthcare facilities, and interview affected individuals to gather informations on yung sa kanilang mga symptoms, yung onset ng illness, yung food consumption history, and potential exposure to contaminated food or water sources. So how would you do this? You could be able to have healthcare practitioner engagement. You need to reach out to healthcare practitioner and other facilities including yung mga clinics, hospital, and laboratories to solicit reports of similar cases. You need to utilize stimulated or enhanced passive surveillance techniques to written communications or conduct active surveillance via direct contact to gather informations on additional cases. So yun nga, pwede kang mag door-to-door survey talaga para makita mo yung mga findings at ma-solicit mo lahat ng mga, similar cases for the outbreak. So, next one you would do is, consider yung public, awareness engagement. So, consider public alerts through local media channels to inform the community about the outbreak and encourage reporting of related symptoms. Leverage media coverage or public announcement to disseminate information and prevention measures and healthcare seeking behaviors. Next is yung population surveys and questionnaires. So you need to conduct population surveys, especially in closed settings like schools or workplace to identify undetected cases, including yung mga merong mild or asymptomatic individuals. You can also distribute questionnaires or collect laboratory specimens to assess the true occurrence of clinical symptoms and asymptomatic infections within the population. Next, you would make a case patient interview. So, interview of case patients to gather insights into potential exposures, symptoms, onset, and contact with other affected individuals. You also need to encourage case patients to provide informations on other individuals exhibiting similar symptoms, facilitating further case identification. So data collection from development, tailor data collection forms to the specific details of the outbreak, ensuring comprehensive capture of relevant information. It includes sections for identifying information, demographic, characteristic, clinical manifestations, risk factors, and reporter details to facilitate case classification and another analysis. One thing to also consider is yung line listing na tinatawag for the data collection. So dito, makikita yung I should say, yung data ng individuals, depende dun sa kanilang mga references. So dito, makikita nyo sa sample na merong total of 6 cases including na yung onset ng kanilang symptoms, Ayan, so yung makikita diyan kung meron ba silang laryngitis o wala, then yung kung nagkaroon ba sila ng, fever. Tapos nakalagay na rin dito yung kanilang, example dito yung, kanilang lab result. So kung positive, negative. So yung line listing magagamit mo siya para mas maayos yung, kumbaga yung track ng cases na kailangan mo doon sa, iyong, outbreak investigation. The last step under your descriptive phase would be performing the descriptive epidemiology. So, descriptive epidemiology is conducted to characterize the outbreak in terms of time, place, and person. This step aids in understanding the outbreak's dynamic, identifying at-risk population, and generating hypotheses for further investigation. So, yung epidemic curves are plotted to visualize the temporal distribution of cases, identifying yung peak and cluster of illness onset. Geospatial mapping naman is used to identify spatial patterns and cluster of cases within and between apartment buildings. So demographic analysis is performed to identify population groups at higher risk of infection. So in performing this descriptive epidemiology, we need to consider time to utilize epidemic curve and visually represent the time course of outbreak, plotting the number of cases against the date or time of onset of illness. To be able to interpret the shape of epidemic curve to discern the patterns of disease spread, distinguishing between epidemic and endemic trends, and identify potential sources and mode of transmission. Analyze outliers on epidemic curve for insights into unusual patterns of illness onset and potential source of exposure. Time also estimate the likely period of exposure by counting back one average incubation period from the peak or median of outbreak, aiding in source identification. Second is yung place. So, it is a must to map the geographic distribution of cases to identify clusters and patterns of disease transmission. And also to consider this to uh, include environmental factors, population density, and spatial proximity to potential source of contamination of infection. So, ang magmamap ka dito, makikita mo kung saan ba ah, yung proximity nung, or yung sources ng contamination or nung infection. So, parang dito is in parang ang bilis. Halos, lahat na sila hindi si spot is affected nung infection. So, third is the person. So, analyzing demographic characteristics of cases, example, yung kanilang age, gender, and occupation to identify vulnerable population and at-risk factors associated with disease transmission. So, investigating commonalities among cases to infer potential modes of transmission and exposure and source of exposure. So, ah, tapos na tayo dun sa descriptive phase ng outbreak investigation. Ayun naman is yung analytic cause. So, sa seventh step would be is the development of hypothesis. In any investigative process, the formulation of hypothesis marks a crucial juncture. While the initial stages of hypothesis generation often begin with the first contact or report of an incident, the subsequent steps involving refining and testing these hypotheses to uncover underlying causes in outbreak investigation, hypotheses play a pivotal role in guiding the direction of inquiries, focusing efforts, and ultimately enriching and determination. So methods of hypothesis generation would be first understanding the disease. Knowledge of the disease, typical characteristics including usual reservoir, mode of transmission, implicated vehicles, and known risk factors serve as a fundamental framework for generating hypotheses. By leveraging this understanding, investigators can initially identify potential sources and transmission pathways to rounding up the usual suspects. Second is case patient interviews. So, during the development of hypotheses, engaging in an open ended discussion with case patients can provide valuable insights into potential exposure and source of infection. These conversations should not be limited to known sources but should explore a wide range of possibilities. So, in some instances, convening meetings with multiple case patients or conducting home visits can uncover critical clues. So, kapag ka nagkaroon ka na ng, kumbaga, interactions with multiple case patients, magkakaroon ka na ngayon ng iba pang mga clues regarding dun nga sa occurrence nung illness. Third is local health department insights. So, local health department staff often possesses intimate knowledge of community practices and behavior. Their input can contribute hypotheses grounded in local context and experiences. Siyempre sila na yung mga merong knowledge yan, makakatulong na sila sa conduct na ng hypothesis. Fourth is the descriptive epidemiology. So, analyzing epidemiological data can reveal patterns and association that leads to hypothesis generations. Questions arising from the data, such as yung temporal cluster of exposure or demographic disparities in susceptibility, can prompt hypotheses that require further investigation. Next is the consideration of unnatural causes. Given contemporary concerns about intentional acts, investigators must remain vigilant for signs of deliberate dissemination of harmful agents. The recognition of intentional transmission, whether terrorist or criminal in nature, demands consideration under various circumstances. Unusual epidemiological patterns or anomalies should trigger exploration into intentional modes of transmission. So, utilizing outliers within an outbreak investigation can offer significant insights by examining cases that deviate from the norm. Investigators may uncover unexpected associations or sources of infection. So, the example of thyrotoxicosis outbreaks underscores the importance of exploring outliers to validate hypotheses and identify unique transmission pathways. So, the eighth step would be evaluating the hypothesis epidemiologically. After developing a hypothesis to explain an outbreak, the next crucial step is to assess its plausibility. So, this evaluation primarily occurs through a combination of environmental evidence, yung laboratory analysis, and epidemiology. Epidemiologists employ two main methods to evaluate hypotheses: comparison with established facts and analytic epidemiology. So, discuss muna natin yung comparison with established facts. In straightforward scenarios where clinical laboratories, environmental and epidemiologic evidence strongly supports a hypothesis, formal hypothesis testing may not be uh, necessary. Example, in the 1991 hypervitaminosis D outbreak, in Massachusetts, investigators quickly associated the outbreak with a local dairy after discovering that all case patients consumed milk from that dairy, which was found to contain excessive vitamin D. So, parang ganun. Sa comparison ng established facts, um, mas makikita mo na ngayon yung mga manifestations through clinical laboratory and environmental studies. Next would be the analytic epidemiology. Analytic epidemiology involves testing hypotheses quantitatively using a comparison groups. So, comparison groups are vital for comparing observed patterns among case patients or exposed individuals with expected patterns among non-cases and unexposed individuals. So, types of studies include retrospective cohort studies were preferred for investigating outbreaks in small and well-defined population where exposure and disease data can be collected retrospectively from all individuals. Case control studies naman utilizes when the outbreak population is not well defined and speed is essential. So retrospective cohort studies is um, ideal for outbreak in small and well-defined population where exposure and disease data are collected retrospectively from all individuals. So methods in calculating risk ratio would be the attack rate in the exposed group over the attack rate in an exposed group. So exposure is considered significant if high attack rate among exposed, low attack rate among unexposed, and most case patients were exposed. So case control studies naman is suitable for outbreaks with undefined populations where rapid investigation is crucial. Selecting appropriate controls matching the population but without this disease being studied. We reconsider, refine, and reevaluate hypotheses. So in an outbreak investigation, the effectiveness of analytic studies heavily relies on the quality of hypotheses generated. If initial hypotheses are weak and unsubstantiated, proceeding to analytic epidemiology such as case control studies may yield inconclusive results. Therefore, it is crucial to refine and reevaluate hypotheses based on emerging evidence insights gathering during the investigation process. For instance, in the outbreak of Salmonella in Ohio, initial case control studies failed to identify common food source. However, observing all the case households, predominantly include young adults, investigators shifted their focus to potential transmission vehicles commonly associated with this age group. By conducting a second case control study, focusing on drug use, specifically marijuana, investigators successfully implicated it is as likely vehicle transmission. So similarly, in the investigation of Legionnaire's disease, initial epidemiological data suggested an association with a grocery store. So further inquiry revealed that the ultrasonic mist machine used in spraying fruits and vegetables was likely the source of transmission. So this hypothesis was validated through laboratory analysis, confirming the presence of the outbreak strain in the mist machine's water reservoir. Sometimes, a more specific control group is necessary to test a refined hypothesis. Sequential case control studies may be conducted to progressively narrow down potential exposures. For instance, in botulism outbreaks, let's say, multiple studies were conducted to identify a specific menu item implicated in transmission chain. Additionally, outbreaks can provide opportunities for valuable research offering insights into disease characteristics, transmission, and host factors. Investigation and Investigating unanswered question during outbreaks can contribute to a scientific understanding of the disease and inform future prevention strategies. So the 10th step would be comparing and reconcile with laboratory and environmental studies. While epidemiological investigations can implicate potential source of outbreaks, laboratory and environmental studies play a crucial role in confirming these findings. So laboratory analysis, yung na-mention kanina, can provide a definitive evidence by isolating pathogens and or identifying environmental contaminants associated with the outbreak. So in the case of gastrointestinal illness kanina, it is linked na with the occurrence nung ano na nga yun, E. coli kako sana that has been positive na na-trace during the outbreak. So dun naman sa cases kanina of salmonellosis outbreak linked to marijuana and Legionellosis outbreaks traced to a grocery store mist machine, laboratory confirms that essential in validating the epidemiological findings. Environmental studies complement epidemiological and laboratory findings by providing insights into underlying cause of outbreaks. Collaboration between epidemiologists, laboratories, and environmental experts is a vital for a comprehensive understanding of the outbreak dynamics. Utilizing demography and physical evidence collection can facilitate interdisciplinary collaboration and strengthen outbreak investigation. So, tapos na tayo ngayon dun sa analytic phase. Now, proceed tayo sa response. So, what can we do? So, the 11th step would be the implementation of control and prevention measures. Effective control and prevention measures are essential for containing outbreak and preventing further transmission. These measures should be implemented promptly to mitigate the spread of disease and protect the public health. Control measures typically target different segments of transmissions chain such as the agent, source, mode of transmission, portal of entry, and host. So strategies may include treating infected individuals, syempre yung decontaminating of environmental sources, modifying behaviors, and implementing vaccination campaigns. Confidentiality is critical when implementing control measures to avoid stigmatization or discrimination against affected individuals. So tayo as healthcare workers must adhere to confidentiality protocols to maintain patients' trust and ensure effective disease control. The last step would be initiate or maintain surveillance. Surveillance is essential for monitoring the effectiveness of control measure and detecting any resurgence or spread of the outbreak. Active surveillance should initiate or contribute to track new cases and assess the impact of interventions. Yung monitoring the demographic spread of the outbreak helps identify areas requiring targeted control measures. Surveillance data also confirm public health authorities about the overall trajectory of the outbreak and effectiveness of implemented intervention. So, in summary, by continuously refining the hypothesis, collaborating with laboratory and environmental experts, implementing time control measures, and maintaining surveillance, outbreak investigators can effectively contain outbreak and protect public health. So, kapag na-implement na yung mga controls and prevention measures, mas mapapaigting na ngayon yung pag-protect sa public. Last step would be communicate findings. Effective communication of investigation findings is crucial also for informing stakeholders, guiding decision making, and promoting public health awareness. The communication process involves both oral briefing for local authorities and written reports that provide a comprehensive summary of the investigation's methodology, results, and recommendations. So, first, oral briefing for local authorities during the outbreak. Oral briefing investigators must convey complex epidemiological findings in a clear, understandable manner to non epidemiologists. So, key elements of effective oral briefing includes um, describing the investigation process and methodologies employed, presenting findings objectively and providing justifiable recommendations for actions, defining conclusions and recommendations with scientific rigor, tailoring communication to the audience level of expertise, and ensuring clarity and persuasiveness in delivery. Oral briefing serves as a critical opportunity to engage local authorities in decision making, fostering a collaboration and consensus on the appropriate controls and prevention measures. Next is the written report. So, investigators should prepare written reports following the standard scientific format, including yung introduction, which consists of the background information and objectives of the investigation, methods or yung yung description kako po sana ng study design, data collection and analysis procedures. Next is yung result, where presentation of key findings including epidemiological trends, associations, and laboratory environmental evidence. Next is yung discussion, interpretation of results, implications for public health, limitations, and recommendations. Recommendations are the concrete actions to address outbreaks and prevent future uh, occurrence. So, written reports provide a blueprint of actions, serving official records of performance, documentation for legal purposes, and reference for further outbreak investigation. Moreover, publication of reports in public health literature contributes to a broader knowledge base of epidemiological and public health, facilitating learning and improvement in outbreak response strategies. Communication with public. So, in response to growing public interest in public health issues, health departments have increasingly embraced direct communication with the public, often through the media. So, effective communication strategies includes yung uh, providing timely updates on investigation progress and findings, offering of guidance on protective measures and preventive actions, addressing public concerns and dispelling misconception, enhancing transparency and building trust within the community. By keeping the public informed through the investigation process and beyond, health departments empower individuals to take proactive steps to safeguard their health and contribute to community widespread of disease prevention efforts. So to sum it up, the fundamentals of outbreak investigation equips learners with essential knowledge and skills needed to navigate through the intricacies of investigating and managing outbreaks. It begins by emphasizing the critical role of the outbreak investigation in safeguarding public health and understanding disease patterns. Learners are guided through the steps of outbreak investigation, from recognizing and reporting outbreaks to communicating findings effectively. Clear definitions of epidemic, outbreak, and clusters are provided, along with insights into decision-making process for initiating investigations. So, the importance of hypothesis generation, evaluation, utilizing various epidemiological methods, and collaboration with laboratory and environmental experts, effective communication strategies, including oral briefing, written reports, and public engagement, are highlighted as vital component of outbreak response, emphasizing the interdisciplinary nature of outbreak investigation and its significance in protecting community health. That's all po. Thank you for listening.